Have you ever wondered why ancient people worshipped idols? Well, the Jewish prophet Isaiah wondered as well. Even though one of the Ten Commandments clearly forbids the making and worship of idols, nevertheless, during his day, idols stretched from one end of Israel to the other. And in chapter 44 of Isaiah, he sarcastically described how idols were made. A craftsman would go out into the forest and carefully select a tree. And then, while he would use one half of that tree for firewood, with the other he would painstakingly carve out an idol and then bow down before it and say, "You are my God, save me." It drove Isaiah crazy. And in verse 19 he wrote, "No one stops to think. No one has a knowledge or understanding to say, half of it I used for fuel. I even baked bread over its coals. I roasted meat and I ate. Shall I make a detestable thing from what is left? Shall I bow down to a block of wood?" Why did ancient people have this compelling need to worship idols? Well, that's what we're going to be briefly talking about in this Thursday morning Bible chat. Hi everyone, I'm Mark Leeming from the 1 Minute Preacher, and welcome to this Thursday morning Bible chat. Now, probably the first place to begin is with some questions. Why does it rain? What causes droughts? What causes earthquakes? What causes illnesses? Why are there some women unable to have children? Why does the River Nile only flood at a certain time of year? Now, as modern people, our immediate inclination is to explain those phenomena in naturalistic terms, that nature is governed by a set of natural laws, and not because there's this pantheon of deities who are pulling nature's strings, so to speak, like a marionette puppet. And yet, the immediate inclination of ancient people was to view those things in supernatural terms. Science hadn't been invented yet. They really did see nature as being governed by a whole host of deities who were often fickle and easily angered, especially if you didn't worship them in the right way. And the standard model back then, held by all of the advanced civilizations such as Egypt, was that there was no single deity, no one God who was powerful enough to be able to control all of those strings. And so they believed that there were all these different deities, all these different gods. Each one had a special sphere of influence who demanded to be worshipped or else. And there was a vast array of deities that needed to be worshipped back then. There were your national gods, there were your local gods, the gods of your town and village. There were your household and family gods. And it was believed that idols were the physical representation of these different deities. So that when a craftsman made an idol, that the god whom it supposedly represented, that the god would literally inhabit that block of wood. But the Jewish belief in only one God, who forbade the making and worship of idols, it turned this whole ancient belief system upon its head. Make no mistake, it was a radical departure from the perceived wisdom of the time. To the ancient person, it seemed foolhardy to say the least, and required a tremendous amount of faith. Furthermore, to the standard ancient mindset, the belief in only one God who did not inhabit an idol was considered a very dangerous idea. Dangerous not just to the individual who held it, but dangerous to the well-being of their family, their community, their nation. Not only would the gods be angry with that one particular person, but they would take vengeance upon everyone else. Now, as modern believers today, we know that our world is governed by natural laws. It can be studied scientifically. Although we do acknowledge that the God who created the heavens and the earth can tinker with the system if he so chooses. That being said, it doesn't mean that we are not tempted to worship idols today, to bow before the secular idols of our time, where biblical morality is viewed not just as quaint and old-fashioned, but indeed hateful, intolerant, and repressive, something that is a menace and a threat to society. It requires a tremendous amount of faith to believe the opposite to what everyone else does, to not bow before their idols, their blocks of wood, and say, "You are my God, save me."